Hi, my name is Dave Kovar and I'm a professional martial arts instructor. Today I'd like to talk about how parents can maximize their child's martial arts experience. So, of course, I might be a bit biased, but I believe every child should learn two things. I believe they should learn how to swim and they should learn martial arts. And there's so many benefits. The challenge is that it's not always easy, right? And it takes time to really develop those skills that martial arts can present. And so a lot of times what happens is parents, well-intended parents, get their child involved in martial arts, but stuff comes up and before you know it, man, they've drifted onto something else. So I want to give you, I believe, 5 effective steps that are really going to help your child really maximize from the benefit from their martial arts training. Number 1 is set a schedule. What do I mean by that is that make sure you're very clear on the days that you're going to be going to class. Like if, for example, hey, you're going to get there whenever you possibly can, something's always going to come up. That's why it's so important that whatever your days are, if it's once a week or twice a week, let's say you're going to be in class Mondays and Wednesdays, you set that schedule. That's number 1. Number 2 is you stick to that schedule. So why that's so important is that especially when kids first begin martial arts training, they're already doing something on that time slot, right? So we have to establish a new habit. So in making sure that you set a schedule, you establish a new habit. Classes are on these days at that time, okay? And then stick to it. Now the next step is never ask your child if they want to go to class. And I'll tell you why this is so important. Because we all, to a certain degree, are this way, but especially kids are present focused, right? And if they're doing something right now that they want to do, and you say, hey, you want to go to martial arts class right now? They might say no. The reality is you don't ask them if they want to go to school in the morning, they just do it. It's what they do. And so I would strongly encourage, you can always give your child an option like, hey, would you like to get your uniform on now or in 15 minutes, right? But you make sure that you stick to the concept of not asking them, just establishing the habit, this is what we do. When my children were young, I told them, hey, there's 2 things you got to do. You got to go to school and you got to go to martial arts. Everything else is optional. Of course, that's my choice as a parent. Now, what I had them do is if they tried out soccer, hey, if they didn't have to stick with soccer, but they had to go through the whole season, right? If they wanted to try a musical instrument, they had to try a musical instrument for a certain season. But for me, the value of long-term martial arts was such to where that was just what we did and that's what we programmed, and that was very helpful as well. The next step number 4 is anchor in a good class. What I mean by that is that every kid, they're not going to enjoy every class every time they go. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be classes that aren't as good, right? And you're going to hear kids say, oh, I don't feel like going, maybe it's getting boring or hard or whatever. And it's important that a lot of times kids don't feel like they want to go, but once they're there, they have a great time, right? So that's why it's so important that when you're bringing your child home or after a class, you ask, how'd it go? Oh, we had a great time. Anchor in, remember that right there. Remember how you felt? Remember the fact that you didn't want to go? Aren't you glad you went? And that's why it's so important the next time it's time to go, you make sure to get your uniform on and proceed happily. And the final step is make sure to help your child think long term. And so if you're thinking, I'm going to have my child try it for another month and see what happens, something's going to stop you in your tracks. Something's going to stop your child in your tracks. But if you keep that vision, that long-term vision of martial arts training and the benefits of the martial arts lifestyle, if you remember that as a parent, and then if you keep that really top of mind for your child, that's going to help them get through those rough spots. I've never in all my years ever had someone come up to me and say, golly gee, Mr. Kovar, I wished I would have quit my martial arts training years ago. I've never heard that. But what I have heard is I've had people say, oh, I'm so glad I wanted to quit, but my parents wouldn't let me. I'm so glad I stuck it out, okay? And I've also heard people say, I trained as a kid, I wished I would have stuck it out, but I was losing interest and my parents let me quit. And if I'm ever a parent, when I get my child involved, I'm not going to let them quit. So I would strongly encourage you guys to keep, if you see the benefits of martial arts training, to keep your child actively trained. No one ever regrets that. Thanks for tuning in and best of luck to you.